You're about to see how Eli Crane hit play on one video that completely dismantled Ilhan Omar's narrative, froze the hearing room, and sent a Democrat scrambling for the exit.
And this, of course, comes after weeks of viral videos from a young man YouTuber who was literally creeping around daycares by himself, making claims about fraud that were not there. And then the vice president and the FBI director were retweeting these videos without even verifying if they were true. So we're not accusing people of being xenophobic and racist. They are being xenophobic and racist, including the president of the United States. And I want to say, for one, that I stand with the Somali and the immigrant community standing here today.
Mr. Hudson, are you just hearing from Republicans on this, or are Democrat constituents like, oh my God, I'm struggling to put my kids in school, struggling to make ends meet, and my tax dollars are being robbed by people, and then they're sending it all over the place, and this is complete fraud. What is going on, and why hasn't anything been done?
Nobody expected what happened when Eli Crane said 4 simple words. Roll the video. For the first hour, Democrats dismissed Republican concerns as racism and xenophobia. But the moment Crane hit play, the entire hearing room changed. The accusations stopped, the atmosphere froze, and one lawmaker suddenly headed for the door. What was on that screen that completely shattered the narrative? As testimony intensified, witnesses described a massive fraud scandal tied to pandemic food programs in Minnesota. Critics argued that legitimate questions about taxpayer money were being buried under accusations of racism and Islamophobia. But Eli Crane came prepared. Instead of arguing louder, he brought receipts, video evidence, news reports, documented convictions. And when the screen lit up, the conversation shifted instantly. Because once facts entered the room, slogans weren't enough anymore.
And why hasn't anything been done about it?
I'll give you a personal example. So my family, my in-laws in particular, are politically diverse. A lot of them vote for Democrats, and they're fairly apolitical. They're not like me, all plugged in. And so I kind of use them as a bellwether for what the people are thinking. Across the board, everybody is upset about this fraud.
And I'm guessing when you guys bring this up, whether it's to the Walz administration, whether it's to the AG, the number one thing that comes back at you is you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, or you're an Islamophobe. As we've seen Governor Walz now trying to answer for these questions, he's doing it at the national level. Do you guys hear the same thing at the state level as well?
Yes, absolutely. They always pivot to the divisive. As I stated in my opening statement, it's diversion, right? We're going to talk about personalities. We're going to talk about partisan politics. We're going to find some way to get people yelling at each other rather than looking at the problem.
Or, like you've heard my colleagues do on this panel, it's Donald Trump, baby.
Yep.
It's all about Donald Trump, right? The old pivot. We're not going to talk about what's going on in Somalia and not going to talk about what's going on in Minnesota with this massive fraud scandal. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. With my remaining seconds, can we play the video I have, Mr. Chairman?
horta aad iyo aadaan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta safaari aan soo gaarnay sida dadka badan ay u og yihiin ciyaalkeena yaryar ilaa iyo number la eg 20 milyan oo ciyaal iskuuley ah waxay cuntadooda ka helaan iskoolka kaliya marka waxaan fursad u helnay in aan sharci soo gudbino oo la dhahayo Meals Act oo u fududeynayo in waqtigaanay pandemic aan ku jirno oo dhalinyarada iskoolka aynan joogin oo guryahooda ay joogaan aynan gaajoonin oo familkoodi wili ay fursad u helaan in cunto ay helaan oo meelo qaarkood laga qaybinayo ay cuntada ka soo qaadan karaan marka aadaan ugu mahad celinaya safari in ay tahay meelaha sayti oo diyaarinayo cunto maalin kasto dhalinyarada ciyaalkii iyo familkoodina ku taakuleynaayo cuntada sayti maalintii kaliya safari waxay cunto siisaa 2300 oo ciyaal ah iyo familkooda taas waa mid muhiim ah sida aad u ogtihiin dhalinyaro badan gaajo ku nool wadankaanayti ama familkooda fursad u helin in quraac qada iyo casho ay siiso marka in qadada sayti ay meel ka helaan aaday u muhiimsan tahay bishan ramadaanka oo familiyaalkeena badan iyagoo aan shaqo haysanin iyagoo aan taakulayn kaleeta helaynin in aynan ka walwalin ciyaalkooda yaryar sidii ay qado ku siin lahaayeen waa muhiim marka waxaan u mahadcelinayaa safaariyo kaleeta iyo dadka badan oo maalin ilaahay keeno fursad u qaata in ay u volunteer gareeyaan oo ay taakuleeyaan familiyaalka.
One thing that is so alarming is the reporting that many of these fraudulent companies are then donating the stolen money back to the same Democrats that are protecting them and advocate for these very programs. Is that correct, Mr. Hudson?
I would agree with that statement.
Well, we just had one of my Democrat colleagues said these are just opinions. Do you know, are these guys donating money back to Democrats?
Yes, they are.
I'd like to enter into the record, Mr. Chairman, an article from Breitbart News saying, with the title being Database Searches Show Somali Fraudsters Funding Democrat Politicians. So these aren't opinions.
Without objection.
It's actually reporting on this. Are you guys aware? You guys are elected officials in Minnesota, right? Are you guys aware of the reporting that some of the stolen money is getting funneled back to the Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia? Mr. Robbins.
Yes, sir. And we have evidence of it going back as far as 2012, where a man was convicted of sending $21,000 to Al-Shabaab. In 2011, 2 Minnesota women were convicted of sending money to different groups. Someone else, we have multiple references of how the Al-Shabaab takes a cut when the money gets to Somalia through the Hawala network. So I think there's ample evidence.
Washington hearings usually follow a familiar pattern. Republicans raise concerns. Democrats accuse them of playing politics. Everyone talks over each other and nothing really gets resolved. But this hearing was different. Representative Eli Crane wasn't interested in trading insults. He wanted answers. Throughout the hearing, witnesses and lawmakers discussed allegations surrounding Minnesota's pandemic food programs and claims that billions of taxpayer dollars were vulnerable to fraud. Critics of those concerns immediately pushed back, arguing that the rhetoric unfairly targeted Somali immigrants and fueled xenophobia. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar defended the Somali and immigrant communities, arguing that many of the accusations being spread online had been amplified without proper verification. But supporters of the investigation argued that the issue wasn't ethnicity, it was accountability. Witnesses testified that ordinary Minnesotans, including many Democrats, were angry over allegations that taxpayer money had been stolen while families struggled to make ends meet. According to testimony, critics frequently encountered accusations of racism whenever they attempted to raise questions about the scandal. And then Eli Crane decided to change the entire tone of the hearing. Can we play the video I have? Suddenly, the room became noticeably quieter. Crane argued that concerns about the scandal were being ignored in favor of political attacks. He questioned witnesses about reports that individuals connected to fraudulent operations had also made donations to Democratic politicians. Witnesses agreed that such reporting existed, and Crane entered articles into the record to support his argument. Then the discussion moved to another troubling issue. Crane asked witnesses whether they were aware of documented cases involving money transfers connected to extremist groups in Somalia. Witnesses referenced past federal convictions and previous cases involving individuals who had been found guilty of sending funds overseas. These weren't accusations made during the hearing. They were cases that had already gone through the federal court system. And that's what changed everything, because the debate stopped being about slogans and became about evidence. Supporters of the investigation argued that asking where taxpayer dollars went isn't racism, it's oversight. If fraud occurred, prosecute it. If public funds were stolen, recover them. If criminal networks exploited the system, expose them. Those demands aren't controversial. They're basic responsibilities of government. What frustrated many Americans watching wasn't disagreement over policy. It was the tendency to dismiss uncomfortable questions by attacking the motives of those asking them. Critics argued that if allegations are false, they should be disproven with facts rather than outrage. Because when every question is labeled hate, meaningful conversations become impossible. And perhaps that's the bigger issue. Pandemic relief programs moved billions of dollars at unprecedented speed. Few people believe every dollar was spent perfectly. Abuse and corruption were bound to happen somewhere, which is why transparency matters. Eli Crane didn't dominate the moment because he shouted the loudest. He dominated because he came prepared. He anticipated the counterarguments. He brought documents. He cited reporting. And he forced the conversation back to specifics. Whether viewers agree with his conclusions or not, one lesson stood out above everything else. Evidence carries more weight than outrage. Receipts beat rhetoric. And sometimes all it takes to change a room is 4 words. Roll the video. If you enjoy calm, fact-focused breakdowns of major political moments, don't forget to subscribe, because the next viral hearing showdown may already be happening.